Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Leadership Synergized. For the second consecutive week, I'm very pleased and honored to have the Executive Director of the Jasper, Indiana Chamber of Commerce, Ms. Nancy Eckerle, with us. Ms. Eckerle, good day, and thank you for being here again.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate your time and being part of this program.
You are very welcome. It is our honor, ma'am. We highlighted last week 37 years as Executive Director, starting in 1987 in Jasper, Indiana, a community in that 20,000 range, 17,000 range population-wise. You did such a wonderful job helping us understand what a chamber is, some of the key interactions and relationships and critical success factors. Let's talk this week, if we may, just to start off, Ms. Eckerle, some of the people or organizations who helped you as you were starting out, who have been critical for your success these past 37 years.
I always like to give credit to my husband. He's been very supportive. There's a lot of times where there's evening meetings, early morning meetings, those kind of things. A lot of time that is at times spent away from home, but he's been very supportive through all that time. And it's just a great knowing that, and we've been married for almost 41 years. It's just been a great marriage and a great relationship, and we support each other. I do want to say that also. So it just works well.
Happy 41st anniversary, by the way. That's coming up in just about a couple months, right?
Yeah, in April.
In April,
Yeah.
wow.
And then our kids are always supportive too. Of course, they're adults now, but they're always supportive of me as I am supportive of them also. But growing up, I think my parents they showed us great examples of hard work and being reliable. That's one thing I'm always just really focus on is if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I don't have to be reminded. I don't have to be nudged. I just do it. And that's just the way I think things should be. And I think that's part of probably the problem with some things in life is people say they'll do something and then they never do it. But so my parents were good examples. Also, like Maureen Braun, she is a great example of a businesswoman in Jasper. She has owned her retail store, a gift, and now a boutique type of store for well over 40 years. And she has also raised a family and been married for equally as longer than I have, but just shows that you can do it. And then she's also very willing to help others get started in business. So if someone really says, I really want to have a retail store, but I don't know how to do it, we always refer people to Maureen. She is willing to sit down with people and let them know that it is a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of investment and it takes a lot of change. So she, in her case, actually even had a fire at her store, did a lot of damage, but within a couple months turned it around and reopened again. So there's always a lot of hurdles. You never know what that hurdle is going to be today, this afternoon, tomorrow. You just don't know. But it's working through that and developing really a support system that you can rely on. And like whenever we need something done at home, at our house, my husband always knows a guy. And so it's always nice to know a guy or a gal, I guess you might say. But it's nice to know people. And so that's the whole part about a small community too, is knowing people, knowing each other, and relying on one another to help get through the good times and also the tough times.
We spoke last week about your service, not only the role and the job and as executive director, but you're involved and have been involved in so many organizational pieces, either through them reaching out to you or maybe personal interest. And how have you been successful in, for lack of a better word, balancing, but ensuring that, look, when those frustration points come, and they come for all of us, right, that the frustration doesn't take over? How do you serve yourself? Where do you spend time to work to continue to ensure that Nancy Eckerle is growing herself?
I am always organizing and planning. So I'm a big planner. I always have to-do list every day. I have a to-do list for probably something I'm doing on a Saturday and 3 weeks from now. So I still pen and paper. I have a planner book and I use it religiously every day. I mark things off. If I can't get it done today and I had it on my list, it gets moved forward ahead to some other day where it's going to get accomplished. So that to me is the key to the success, is being organized, knowing what's going on every day, knowing what's going to go on. I'll plan out my whole year actually of things that I know are consistent. If it's a meeting that happens on the first Tuesday of the month, it gets put on the calendar for the whole year ahead. So I'm not overbooking things. And I often laugh because I still am paper and pencil. I really don't do electronic scheduling, but I do find that the people who don't show up for meetings are the ones that have it on their electronic calendar. It's, oh, where are you? Oh, the time change, or there's always some excuse. Anyway, so that is to me what keeps me focused, keeps me in line, is that planner. I spend probably at least 30 to 45 minutes every day working with my daytime planner and making it work. And actually, when I first got that, I took a class and learned how to use it. And I use that system every day just to make sure that I'm kept on track, that I don't forget about things, and that I move forward and keep moving things forward, not just writing down when is that meeting or when is that project need to be completed, but what are the steps it takes to get to that point. So I'm a big to-do list person.
I like that. Thank you for sharing him. You know, talking about serving self, but then serving others in your role of executive director, there's a number of opportunities every day, I would imagine, to serve those organizations that are members or are indirectly partners within the city and the mission that you're serving. And I'm assuming that at the same time, the value that those organizations and your chamber members offer up in being available to share their best practices or their mentoring experiences with others who may be just starting out helps you in your role. It helps ensure the mission of the chamber.
It really does. Like I mentioned last week, that we did 40 ribbon cuttings last year in Jasper. Many of those are, just starting out. They don't really know anything about being in business. We try to reach out to them to make sure that not only are we cutting that ribbon today, but in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, they are still in business. And we just didn't cut that ribbon just to be having a fun afternoon. One thing I will say back to the networking and the partnerships is that we also work well with organizations out of our area, let's say regional partnerships. The Indiana Small Business Development Center, they are located throughout different regions throughout the state of Indiana. And because of the relationship that our chamber had developed with them, whenever they had a small business navigator, a very brand new position come about, they asked if we would host that person here at our office, and we would host that person for a couple of years because it's a new program and a grant program. Had we not worked on fostering that relationship with the Small Business Development Center, we would never have that person, now Virginia, working out of our office. Although she serves the region, she's located in our office, which means that we can capture her expertise for our Jasper businesses. So every time we have a ribbon cutting, following that, she makes a visit to that business to plug them into the Small Business Development Center and all the services that they provide. So
Is
again,
that what,
it's those connections, those networks, those fostering those relationships, which are so very important.
and you just led into really the next area I'd just like to have a conversation with you on, and that's, you mentioned just a few moments ago about change and looking at change. And in the model of leadership, still, the T is for transformation, which is really taking change and creating synergy with that. And your responses lead me to believe that your organization and the community, the way they work together, is really all about change. Are there any challenges or obstacles you noted from a chamber's point of view, maybe throughout your career or the past few years, that are really probably on the horizon as maybe being difficult when it comes to change in such a community?
One of the challenges I think not only just our chamber, but every chamber is facing is younger members and them understanding what is the need for a chamber and how can they become a part of the chamber. So we've made a real effort, and not on purpose necessarily, but we have a board of 18 members. So I report to a board of 18 people. And now our board is probably half younger generation and then half more experienced people. And so it's just because that is what we're looking for, to make sure that the community also realizes that the chamber will change as the community changes and as the business climate changes and as those hot topics change. So there's always rapid change going on, I think. And so we always have to adjust to that. And so part of that is getting those new board members on board. And we had a function last week. It was a networking event, and several of our younger board members were there, or they didn't really know many people in the room. So I made sure that I was constantly introducing them to some of the more seasoned people that were there, so that not only they could connect, but they could connect with the business that they were representing. So it's, again, putting those pieces together, keeping those people linked together, and opening doors. How great that the next time we host one of those business after hours is that one of our younger board members will say, we're going to host that at our business. Maybe they work for their parents, maybe they don't, maybe they're just employed somewhere else, but that they would initiate that for their company. And I can see that happening yet toward the rest of this year.
You talk about change, you talk about climate and opening new doors. And last week you mentioned you've played a part in the role of bringing the women empowering to Jasper. A great example of changing the climate or keeping things fresh, if you will, in that regard. Talk a little bit about that conference and what it's meant to the community.
The Women Empowering Women, it's an organization. It's a step off from the chamber. It's a separate dues paying organization. That group is now meeting quarterly. We had met monthly. We've done all kinds of things. And then, of course, during COVID, you had to adjust everything. And we did virtual meetings then. But we've decided now that 4 times a year is what works well for our community. We're not a big enough community where we can have monthly meetings and expect people to show up monthly, because you're still already competing with those that are going to Rotary and Kiwanis and Lions, and those things meet weekly. Anyway, so we have brought in speakers, are actually with the Women Empowering Women, we try to use local women as our speakers and our presenters. Basically, we focus a lot on work-life balance, on health issues, on finances, things that women need to make sure that they can get through their day correctly. And I'll never forget, we had a finance person a couple of years ago, and they said, do you know what kind of insurance you have? Do you know your coverage? Do you know all these things? And most women are like, I have no idea. I have no idea. It opened eyes to things that they do need to know, and they need to know that to run their household. Maybe they even need to know those things within the workplace where they are on a daily basis. So that has become very successful. We've had Women Empowering Women for probably about 7 or 8 years now, and we're now rebuilding so much that the last session we had last year in December, I knew very few women in that group that attended. And I was like, yes, we've reached success. We have new people attending, and they will continue to attend along with some of the like more seasoned or the old faces that have been there ever since the beginning. But it's been nice. And we also have a planning group that we've now involved some younger women in, and so they are connecting with each other. They don't even know each other. They're new. Some of them have moved back to Jasper, or some have moved to Jasper because of their jobs. So it's just that constant building and rebuilding and connecting people together to keep our community growing.
What a wonderful focus. And as you said, 7 years ago, it didn't exist. 8 years ago, it didn't exist. What a transformation example in the community. Thank you and those who've been involved with that piece. I think it's wonderful. And I love the excitement when you said you didn't know anybody when you went back in December. That's perfect. Ms. Eckerle, it brought a question to my mind. When you think back throughout your career, what strength and talent in Nancy Eckerle has been most consistently there to help you with the success you've had and the impact, the influence you brought to others?
I think it's because I approach this job really with passion. It's something that again, when I first started this job, I didn't know anything about chambers. I didn't know anything chambers did, but I've learned that through the years. But just that whole concept of kind being and doing for others, and being someone that really believes in our community and that loves our community. So I was not a cheerleader in high school, but I definitely am a cheerleader for Jasper now and our whole county, and really this whole region of Indiana, because you get to know a lot of other people, not just in your own community, but you get to know people involved in other organizations and state agencies and whatever. But it takes that effort. You could easily sit in your office all day long and do things, but not nearly in the way of getting out. And I'll never forget during COVID, we had a group of about 8 different chamber directors that connected with one another from our Southern Indiana area. And a couple of them said, "What? I'm closing up shop. I'm going home. I'm just going to work from home." And I said, "Why? Now is when your members need you more than ever. I'm going to work every day." I made up a paper that said we were an essential service in case I got stopped driving you never know what was going to happen. With a capital E. We emailed our members almost on a daily basis of various things that were going on, services that they needed, programs that they needed, and they reached back out to us and they said, "Thank you for continuing to connect with us." We lost very few members during that time. We actually had, I think, only one business in Jasper shut down during that time. And that was really nothing to do with COVID. But I am so proud that we came to work every day. And whenever there was no meetings to go to because everything got canceled, we cleaned out our storerooms. We cleaned up. And, and we made sure, I mean, we took boxes of stuff for shredding that you just hang on to stuff for a while. But so we made that work. We made that happen, and because of it, we're a stronger chamber at the end of the day. And now, as we're into 2024.
Well, let's hope we don't have to have another pandemic to clean out files again. Thank you for sharing that. What a great, through the years, what's a lesson that you've learned through a failure at this point that you could share for others starting out, whether they're looking to lead an organization such as Rotary or the Chamber of Commerce, or just lead through the business, perhaps from a business perspective?
Probably the biggest lesson is try not to take things personal. Sometimes someone or a group or something may lash out. They don't like what you're doing, or they don't like what your organization is doing, but try not to take it personal. I've cried many tears in this job because I do take things personal. But stepping back, I think, why did I take it so personal? I was standing up for the mission of what we were doing, the mission of what we believed in. And so you just have to, it takes a little bit of time to get a backbone, I think, to stand up to that. And then know your materials, know what you're doing. Don't just always take it off the cuff. Learn, study, and believe in what you're doing so that you can be the spokesperson for those beliefs and for those missions and values that your organization represents.
I love that. And I love the fact you bring the passion in that piece and the success. When you were talking about bringing the next generation in, the term body of work, I think that represents Nancy Eckerle, 37 years in that role. And certainly you've had to have the love through the passion. And I think by the fact you've alluded a number of times in our 2 episodes last week and here today about the effectiveness of the relationships, that speaks volumes to your ability to relate, to understand that in other words, to understand it's most important to come alongside than it is to jump out in front and be the one pointing fingers itself. I want to congratulate you. I know that's played a huge part in your success.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I report to a board. So we have a board president. So part of what I do is make that person look good also. For example, last week when we had let her be the spokesman for the chamber to thank everyone for being there. I didn't do that because she needs to let people know who she is. Also, everyone there knew who I was, but not everyone knew who she was. It's always good to let that other person rise to the top and give them credit. You don't if you're going to do something just to get credit for it, don't do it. It's not worth it. It's getting the job done, making sure it's done correctly, and then stand back and let it all flow.
Yeah, you hit upon a point I love from John Maxwell. John Maxwell would state, in paraphrasing, that to be a good leader, you got to first be a good follower. And then you're going to have a number of opportunities to follow, but you follow from that perspective in that regard. And that's the best example that I think to really sum up what you've done and what your organization has done. And honestly, what the community is just phenomenal. The way that egos don't get in the way. And it's because of people of yourself. Let me ask, what's next for Nancy Eckerle? I know you just got onto the city council, but when you look at growth or something you'd like to accomplish, either personally, career-wise, or as an organization, what's that next big objective?
Oh my, that's a big question. I'm not really sure the answer to that, really. I think really to continue to help our community grow and to continue to welcome new people to our community, because we definitely live in a changing community than we did in 20 years ago, that's for sure. But just to let people know that they're welcome here, that also that they should be involved in the community instead of just sitting back. Get involved. If you have something to say, speak up, say it. What idea is better than the one that's being spurted out instead of the one that's being kept
Mm.
behind? Let people know that it's okay to be involved. It's okay to speak up. Not every idea will move forward, but if you don't ever express your idea, it can never move forward. So that's what I think is encouraging others and encouraging that next generation of leaders to continue to have. And we like to say that in Jasper, we do things the Jasper way. And that really means that we've studied the issue, we've worked hard on the issue. We like to do things so that it's the best for our residents and our businesses that are here. So not doing necessarily things the right way, because everyone's way is different, but doing things the Jasper way, which then focuses on a great community and a place where people are proud to live.
Excellent. Thank you again for your time last week and this week. One final question, someone who's listening or viewing, if they'd like to build on some of the comments or information you've shared to gain some of your experiences, how do they find Nancy Eckerle?
You can basically find me at the chamber every day. Call me, just call me. I love to meet people for a cup of coffee. I just like to go to McDonald's, have a cup of coffee with someone, or even at a local little restaurant. But call me, email me, do a Zoom call with me. Anyway, I don't mind doing that at all. I like to take the time to meet with people and just share their ideas and then just share my opinion on how I think maybe that idea could come to fruition.
And just speaking from experience, because I've had that cup of coffee with Ms. Eckerle, Jasper, Indiana has a lot of good coffee places to choose from. Ms. Eckerle, much respect and admiration for what you've meant to the community, what you continue to mean, and what you're going to continue to mean moving forward. What a great example of true servant leadership and a person of service for a community. Admire you, and God bless you. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate your time and being on your program.
We thank you. I hope you've enjoyed Ms. Eckerle these past 2 weeks as much as I have. Remember, with still, you're going forward. Still peace, serve others, always looking to learn at the same time. God bless you. I appreciate you.